Fuck. What the fuck, dude? What? Did we just get abducted by aliens?
Yeah.
You're really calm about this. I don't know how.
I was expecting it.
Okay.
Honestly.
To be fair, I didn't. When I said you're not gonna do nothing, you punk ass to that gray, didn't think they were actually gonna do something about it. Turns out, they did a lot of horrible things. Turns out they said, you want to see where we put this shiny probe? And I said, into a fun, fun little device, then we throw it at people or something? And they go, nope.
You had a much worse time than I did. I got abducted by the Nordic aliens. So.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
I got the cool aliens, which kind of went all.
Yeah, but then they could talk to you about nature and shit for
I fucking love that shit.
It was 6 months.
I love nature, dude.
Yeah, they're just like, save the planet, blah, blah, blah. You know what we're doing? Let's get my butthole ripped apart by graves. Hello, my name is Fred Stewart. Welcome to Haunts, Graves, and Omens. With me, as always, my lovely co-host.
It's me. It's Taylor. Hi.
Hi. We got abducted by aliens.
We did.
And
I had a great time.
I'm glad you had a great time because
Sounds like yours went worse.
I certainly had a time. I'd like to just take this moment and just say something from the bottom of my heart. Right down here-ish is where the bottom of my heart is. But we're back, baby! Welcome back, dude. New HGO Studios. Check this shit out. Isn't it cool, dude? There's a moth up there. And I got a bones. And I
literally just put that moth up.
Yeah, let's see if it's not even a frame. But my member of Satanic Temple membership, Taylor's got a death moth. And we got Chester, who we've talked about. He's been on the pod before, but we got Chester. He's part of the permanent set. He's actually here. There's just shit all over this set. And we're working on it.
The pillows are mainly for the dog.
Yes.
These are for the dog. However, she's not using them currently.
No.
So, that's great. Love that for her.
No. But with that, welcome once again to HGO 151. We're back, baby. And the biggest things to remember is nobody important has died, and there's nothing happening in the U.S. with constant violence or people being taken from their homes in the middle of the night. There's nothing like that. Everything is up and up. The vice president didn't fuck a couch at some point. There's nothing happening in the East. Everything's fine. I also don't go online or go outside. So
the vice president didn't kill a pope this time.
Allegedly.
I have my suspicions.
Everything is super calm and chill. Nothing's bad has happened. All right. Everything's fine. I think my beer spilled. That's fine. That'll be all right. On to some important local news. This is a couple months late, but I just could not, in my heart of hearts, not talk about it. So here in Portland, Oregon, someone has been doing a lot of pissing. A lot of pissing. And it comes from the New York Post. An Oregon neighborhood has been soaked with intrigue, which is a gross way to say that, for months since a mysterious man started depositing jugs of pee in recycling bins under the cover of darkness. And one resident hopes he can flush out the suspect. Do you love it?
Great.
I love it. It's tragically gross that Alex Van Dunn, a Northeast Portland resident who came home last September to find city services hadn't emptied full recycling bins he dragged out that morning. He never expected what he found when he flipped open the lid, or the stench that came with it.
Ew.
The jugs were filled to the brim with yellow urine, dark, evidently poorly hydrated, stinky, white foaming pee. It's considered a biohazard, so it can't be processed by recyclers and can be only be thrown out. And like a morning trip to the bathroom, the pee kept coming. It kept coming. The problem became so persistent that Van Dunn trained a security camera at his curb in hopes of shaking out the truth. Man, whoever wrote this had a great time. In the footage, a hooded man rolled up by night in what appeared to be a BMW, then slinking out to his trunk, emptying armloads of piss-filled jugs into the bins. Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
This is crime news.
It is crime.
Eventually, Van Dunn decided he had enough and stopped putting out his recycling, but the slippery suspect simply moved on to a neighbor's recycling bin and then on to another. Quote, it sort of started to unravel. I don't know why he's hitting the same location so many times. That doesn't make sense to me. And why is he doing it, Van Dunn said. He went to the Nextdoor app where he searched for answers. And people responded by calling the perp disturbed and posting outlandish conspiracies about kidnapping victims and worse. While these posts haven't turned up any leads, Van Dunn has decided to stop holding it in and file a police report, arguing that because the pee was placed in a recycling bin out of the trash, the behavior was criminal. He also decided to take the matter into his own hands and started setting his bins out in a new location. Hopeful he can lure the suspect back and catch him with a new camera angle. Quote, maybe he's watching. I don't know. Please stop. Please don't do it anymore, Van Dunn said. Quote, I mean, this guy's really just pissing me off. It's jokes that write themselves, ladies and gentlemen.
That's so
And then,
funny.
Taylor, you had a story about bees?
Yeah, so this happened like 2 weeks ago, and the time I read it, I was like, huh? So a truck, a truck with millions of bees overturned on the 31st of May in Washington, a couple hours from us, where a truck hauling roughly 70,000 pounds of bees and active honeybee hives flipped over on the road near the Canadian border. And they basically were like, hey, don't go outside.
Don't go outside.
So initially, WCSO urged people to avoid the area due to the potential of bees escaping and swarming, and then they initially said 250 million bees were loose. After receiving information from one of the beekeepers during recovery work, it was said that the more accurate total was probably lower and closer to 14 million.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, just casually 14 million.
Just a casual 14 million bees hanging out, doing bee things, escaping. Criminal. They're criminals. They've made their escape. They hoped that within the next 24 to 48 hours that they would be able to let the bees rehive, and by morning they were suspecting that most of the bees would have returned to their hives, but it doesn't actually say how many actual bees made it back home, but it sounds like they caught a good many of them. And all I can imagine is just, I know it's not how they're doing it, but the police officers with those little like kid bug nets.
Uh-huh.
Just Animal Crossing style.
Yeah, I was more so... Let's just do a transition here. I was more so thinking that they were dressing up in sexy bee outfits. Come here, bees!
Oh
Ooh!
But that's just how it was. Just fucking... initially when I read this story, it did say 250 million bees, which I thought was a lot of bees. 14 million bees is significantly less. However...
It's a lot of bees.
That's a fucking shit ton of bees, dude. What? Apparently the, truck didn't turn. It took too tight of a turn, so it fucking... Over. There it goes.
You think it was like a Fast and the Furious kind of move? Where the bees were like...
Unintentional, but
they're just like, it's a heist. And then they realize that none of the bees have a CDO, which is fucking dangerous, all right? You have anything else to share about these loose bees?
No, just that there were a considerable amount of bees.
And you had a description of these bees just in case anybody sees them, right?
Yeah, they were round, not as fuzzy as a bumblebee, but a little bit of fuzz, like this golden yellow, black stripes. They got a little stinger.
Okay.
Got two antennae.
And from what I remember about the story is that if you do see bees, you are supposed to call 911.
If you just see any bee, go ahead and call 911 immediately.
911, what's your emergency? There's fucking bees everywhere. They're coming for me. I do have another crime story that I wanted to bring to the table.
Okay.
So an Australian woman is put on trial for the mushroom murder of in-laws, and she says she was trying to fix a bland lunch, which is almost a crime in itself.
She was... What, did she put mushrooms in the...
No, though, she's trying to create a bland lunch.
I think she was trying to make it not bland.
She's trying to fix a bland lunch. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not fixing to make myself a sandwich or say I'm trying to make myself a sandwich. I don't know.
That read to me is that she was trying to make it not bland, which...
Well, tell you what wasn't planned is that in Wellington, New Zealand, before Aaron Patterson's in-laws and their relatives arrived at their home for lunch, she bought some pricey ingredients, consulted friends about recipes, took her children out to see a movie. Then, the Australian woman served them a dish containing poisonous death cap mushrooms.
Oh, shit.
A meal that was fatal for 3 of her 4 guests.
Huh.
So, not great. Not going to go well with the in-laws.
No.
Whether that was Patterson's plan is at the heart of the triple murder trial that has gripped Australia for the nearly 6 months. Prosecutors in the Supreme Court case in the state of Victoria say that the accused lured her guests to lunch with a lie about having cancer before deliberately feeding them toxic fungi. Not a very fun guy.
No.
But her lawyers say the tainted beef Wellington served was a tragic accident caused by a mushroom shortage mishap. She denies murdering her estranged husband's parents, Dawn and Gail Patterson, and the relative Heather Wilkinson. Well, you know, the mother of 2 denies basically having any sort of, she was like, I didn't know it was poison death cap mushrooms. I mean, if you don't... The general rule about mushrooms, if you don't know what it is, you probably shouldn't serve it, right?
Yeah, but did she forage these, or...
I guess we'll find out in court.
Because, I personally can tell the difference between a death cap and other types of mushrooms, but maybe there are people out there who cannot.
Yeah, you keep feeding them to me, and I keep surviving.
That's a lie. You won't eat mushrooms.
Correct.
He hates mushrooms. He does not eat them. He thinks they're gross.
There's only one kind that I enjoy. Basically, the accused said that she believes she was spared from the worst of the effects of the poison meal because she self-indulged vomiting shortly after her guests left. She had binged on most of a cake and then made herself throw up, the problem that she's been struggling with for decades. It's anyone's game at this point of whether or not she actually meant to poison her estranged husband's family or not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean...
What do you think, Tay? Do you think she did it?
It is a little suspicious. I personally can tell a difference, but I guess maybe someone who doesn't like mushrooms can't, but I can. So...
Well, I could tell these are poison mushrooms by the fact that I'm poisoned.
Well, so they say that they look like puffballs, and I absolutely disagree. They're like these mushrooms right here look like.
Thank you for showing me.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. These.
Great.
I was like, those look nothing alike. Puffball mushrooms look like a puffball. If you've never seen one, they're white and they're big and round, and they're these. You can't even see that very well.
One thing about this podcast that I feel like is true to form of who we are as people is that when we do this show, it's not like we're just 2 entertainers talking to you guys and gals and they thems and zazers or whatever you want to call yourself. We love you nonetheless. And it's funny because every time I watch a professional podcast, they have everything superimposed and it's here's the thing. We're doing this you're sitting across from us. We're check this shit out.
Look at my phone.
It's just so true to form of who we are as people.
Well, I mean, I didn't expect to be talking about mushrooms, so I didn't have you pull up pictures of mushrooms like I should have.
It's my bad.
Yeah. It's his bed.
It's not my bed.
It's his bed.
So when we get abducted by the aliens.
It's definitely his bed. I keep telling him that he needs to get pictures of mushrooms for the podcast, and he keeps not doing it.
So anyway,
maybe next time you'll learn.
Yeah, great. You're gonna start editing the podcast and producing it. That's a good idea. Let's get on that.
We know how that's gonna go.
So
hey, I did fine with just the audio. I know nothing about video.
It's easy. Edit it. So
That.
This week, I wanted to start off strong. New studio, new stuff, same dumb, hot idiots. It's us, baby. We are adding... so when we started adding videos to the podcast almost 100 episodes ago, I'm talking on my phone because my laptop is still broken, and eventually I'm just going to get a phone mount. It's way easier. We started off with Most Haunted Islands. I'm sure if you been watching the podcast since then, over... almost would it be 100 episodes ago almost?
Mm-hmm.
We did Most Haunted Islands. So in that theme, we are talking about ghosts.
Ooh.
Now close your eyes and imagine with me, shall we? Close your eyes. Close them.
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be able to picture it anyways.
Close them. Taylor has the thing. What's it called where you can't envision? Picture?
I don't remember what it's called, but like I cannot visually picture things in my head. So like I can describe things. Like if you're like picture an apple, I don't see a fucking apple. That's not a thing that I see. I swear to God, I thought like it was like I don't know, just a saying. I didn't think people could actually fucking see that shit in their head. I fucking can't.
They can. So close your eyes and imagine this for me. The distant sound of gunfire. The smell of iron and gunpowder fill your nostrils. The sounds of the dying and the pain fill your ears. Followed close behind by the sound of frantic radio traffic. You feel the adrenaline coursing through your veins. The most terrifying part? You don't see anything. Not because you're blinded in combat, because this is a haunting. Welcome to Battlefield Hauntings, the Middle East.
That'll be...
Ooh, scary.
Battlefield Hauntings.
Ooh, this isn't the second time we've recorded this.
I will be completely honest. I don't remember what we talked about in the first one, so it's like a whole new episode for me because I'm a fucking idiot.
So the episode that comes out after this, we recorded with Mr. Marty Cowick. That actually ended up being our first episode technically because we had recorded this one originally. I had some issues, but now the issues seem to be fixed, so we're good.
Let's hope that the next one is okay because we can't get Marty back.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see. So it comes at no surprise that Battlefield or Warzone would become haunted. The incredible loss of life that war causes on both sides of the battle, and those simply living their lives is unimaginable. But there are a few stories that come into mind, at least for me, when it comes to Battlefield Hauntings. Hold on there, Chester.
He's fine.
For those of you who are bricked up sideways...
What?
This line always gets me to laugh. For those of you who are bricked up sideways style for ghost stories, when you hear the word Battlefield Hauntings, your first thought would be a Gettysburg or another Civil War battlefield somewhere in the Deep South. But me? Me?
I don't think your manic cam is zoomed in enough.
Me? What about me?
I don't think it's zoomed in enough. I think
It's
closer.
fine. I'm so glad you asked. You didn't ask. You could have.
What do you think
you
about?
Never call.
What do you think about?
You never call. You never write. I'm getting older. Okay. Just like I'm your older grandfather. Just like you never call. You never write. Anyway. Starting off strong. Located in the Helmand province of Afghanistan was Operation Point HGOP, where a terrifying incident occurred more than once. Instead of reading off just some he said, she said kind of story, I'm going to read this Marine's account word for word as best as I can, as well as everyone else's encounters. Because they're pretty spooky. Shout out to Reddit for all these stories, and they will be available in the description for you to read. I highly recommend if you want to have a fun time and you're like, don't want to be the one dude at a party where you're like, look at this podcast. Like, don't do that. But you want to read a fucking really crazy story to your friends at a campfire.
Yeah.
Read these stories because they're super scary. I'm going to tell them to you now. So they'll kind of be fresh in your noggin, but they're spooky. Anyway.
Or you could just do what I do and be like, look at this.
Look at this thing.
Look at this thing. Look at this thing.
Look at this thing. It's text. A bunch of words.
Wow. Look at this thing.
It's a dog. Anyway, so this is the haunting of O.P. Rock from Reddit user Isolation.
Ooh.
For the most part, I hated being in the military when I was in it. But now that some years have passed, I love the memories of being in the military. Either it is I only remember the good parts, definitely not true, or you end up having the feeling of pride, not pride that you did something honorable or badass, but rather the pride that you survived it and overcame it. This is one of the few absurdly negative memories I had while being in the Marines. My unit's motto was, not for self, but for country. Let me tell you, if I knew what I was going to have to witness there, I would not do it for myself, and I will also have not done it for my country.
I've heard that before.
My unit was deployed to patrol base Hassanabad. Now, as some of you may know, America was not the first to try to invade Afghanistan. There were the Russians before us, the British, and even Alexander the Great of Macedonia tried to march through this land. None of them were able to hold on to the serene and quite beautiful landscape. All of them met an eventual defeat. I and 3 other men were put out at a little bump in the land, a hill about 65 feet called O.P. Rock. Before us, the British were there. They warned us about an oppressive atmosphere. Yeah, no shit, buddy. It's Afghanistan, and everything is oppressive. I just love that. O.P. Rock was approximately 600 meters from patrol base Hassanabad, where the rest of my unit was. Our job was to watch for any baddies heading towards the patrol base, engaging them, and calling a QRF and possibly air support. I do love some birds. I love the way this is written. I'm so glad I get to read this again, even though, we have to do this again, just because I loved just the way this person writes this, because it's so funny how real it is.
Yeah.
Of like, it's not a person like, like, I was at patrol base, like, I was on a bar at O.P. Rock, and a mysterious figure arrived out of the, whatever, out of the desert. It's just like, dude, I fucking love blowing shit up. Where people come and then, like, they're not there anymore. Love it. It's just so fun. So, O.P. Rock used to have a small cave system underneath it, most likely dug by the Taliban. That is, until the U.S. dropped about 2,500 pounds of explosive freedoms onto their heads. If there was any men inside who did not die from first having the air sucked out of their lungs, die in a second time of having their concussive force turn their organs into jelly, or die third time by being engulfed in flame, they were buried. So, bombed to hell. So, we get to our little O.P. Rock on the first day of what was going to be about 3 months of literal hell. First thing you do when you are going to go static at a location, dig. You dig some holes, maybe a trench, and dig some more to throw up a few HGO barriers and the like. We started digging, and as we were digging, we started finding bones. Not one bone, not 2 bones, tons of bones. There were bones for days. We could have built our whole OP out of bones.
The dog's favorite thing.
The canines were licking their chops, waiting.
They were so excited.
So excited. We found relics too, pottery, tinware, a helmet. The helmet was Soviet issue from the 1970s, 1980s. These were human bones of Soviet soldiers who never made it home.
Ooh.
Our first night, I got third watch from 12 midnight to 4 in the morning. I had night vision on and was just watching out over the landscape. I started to see flashes of light about 400 meters from my position. Looks like incoming small arms fire, but I do not hear any gunfire. nor the distinctive snap of a round going past in close proximity, nor the distinctive tracers. Shit looks like Star Wars at night. Tracer rounds are awesome. That's in quotations. They pop up all over the place, then disappear, then show up a few minutes later. I wake up one of my battle buddies and he notices the flashes. So, it was not just my imagination or malfunctioning gear. Great. Eventually, some other lights showed up in the sky, significantly brighter, and seemed to float to the ground like a really dim flare. Taking off the night vision goggles, all we could see was darkness. Unsettling to say the least, this happened a few times. Not just to me, but to the other guys on the hill as well. The worst event in OP Rock, and possibly the most terrifying moment I've ever experienced in my life, happened about 3 weeks after we posted up. I was sitting another late night watch. It had been a few days since anyone had seen any strange lights. However, immediately they came in force. I swear they were muzzle flashes. I saw the dim flares again, and it seemed like the entire position was being lit up. At first, I ducked for cover, but there was no physical auditory evidence, just the lights. Then, almost as abruptly as it ended, I was back looking at the land through a fuzzy green lens. And then there's Whispermere. Broze Ordoze. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Which, when I did translate that into Russian,
Yeah.
it was like translated to like Broze Vroje, something similar to that, and it was along the lines of like, give me a weapon.
Okay.
So somebody's whispering in his ear like, give me a weapon or bring me a weapon. There's nobody there.
Spooky.
I don't know what it meant, but I knew it was Russian. I knew it sounded angry. Startled, I flopped to the ground like a fish trying to bring my weapon up to bear. Turned to my right, and there was absolutely nothing there. Nothing at all. I freaked the fuck out. I wake up my buddy and told him that he needs to take watch. He owed me because I bit the bullet one day and willingly took an egg omelet MRE willingly, just so everyone else had something significantly less shitty. That day I was a true American hero. It was only when I had started to calm down that I noticed I had pissed myself. Significantly more common occurrence in the military than one would think. Definitely was not the first time I pissed myself in my military career, and definitely would not be the last. A few weeks later, we had some translators come through, and we talked to them. A few weeks later, we had some translators talk to some of the locals in the area. Apparently, there was a small Soviet outpost here as well during their war in Afghanistan. It had been overrun by Mujahideen, and every single last one of them was slaughtered. The captured were executed, and their bodies were left to lay there. Those poor men are still fighting their war.
Ooh.
Pretty spooky, huh?
That is spooky.
You're spooked out? You scared?
I'm a little spooked.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get even more spooky, shall we?
Yeah.
This is far from the first story I've heard about the haunting souls of Afghanistan. Oddly enough, while researching the OP Rock, I discovered another story of another haunting that is eerily similar, just about 566 miles away. Once again, I'm going to read this person's account word for word, the best that I can. This comes from Reddit user Spirited Soul. So basically, let's see, they're basically just in the initial part, they're like, I'm a mobile, I spell things wrong. So, quote, I've only told this story to three people outside the old military buddies who have similar stories to this experience. First, I need to set the scene. Tucked to the mountain valley of Baghlan, Afghanistan, is a place called Russian Hill. Tapa Gurgan is the poetic spelling of the local name. We just call it Tapa or Tapa. Tapa is the only hill in this area, in this entire valley, that is not by mistake. It is a burial mound that has existed since the time of Alexander the Great. Generations of locals have been buried here. This also includes the dead Russians from the failed invasion back in the 80s. Now, what did American Special Operations do when they came to the valley? Level off the top and stick a combat outpost on top of it.
Yeah, that tracks.
If it's a good spot, it's a good spot.
Do what you gotta do.
I guess. So, this is where my story begins. I was a regular Army paratrooper attached to the Special Operations team that built the outpost. One of the roles of the regular Army guy was to watch the radios at night. We'd always get weird babble on them at night, but that could be written off as interference, though years as a radio operator for my team led me to think otherwise. I had that duty one night, about 2:45 a.m. to 3 a.m. My shift ends, and I walk down the hill to a little bathroom area. I'm doing my business in this little cinder block hut with a hole when I hear walking up the hill next to me. At first, I think nothing of it, probably just one of the local guards coming up for a shift change. But being in the middle of the night and me being in a combat zone, I do listen and pay attention. I can hear the sound of gear rattling, which I know for a fact them and our locals don't wear gear with metal buckles or boots for that matter. Excuse me. But so I have been on patrol with them multiple times, and they hang around the outpost. I know what they sound like when they move. This was not that. This was the heavy set boot steps of a soldier in combat gear. Now, I'm not waiting to die on the throne. I'm not wanting to die on the throne, and the fact that I was one of very few Americans at this outpost, I decided I probably needed to know who was going up the hill. So I crack open the door and peek outside, and holy hell bananas, there is someone on the hill. It happened to be mostly a full moon and had a decent ambient light. They were carrying an AK, so definitely not an American. They had on a uniform, not the typical Afghan garb, not one of our ALPs. At this point, they were close to the top of the hill, and this person is not someone from the outpost. I grab my rifle, pop out the door, and run up the hill after them. I get to the top, and not a single person was around.
Ooh.
I walk over to the building where the radio guard is and knock on the door. My buddy answers and asks what's up. I check to see if anyone has come up or came in there, and he says no one has come in or out of the barracks. I've got a cigarette from him. We laughed about what just happened. The next day, while eating lunch, we joked about it, and one of our special op guys who had been there longer than us told us it was the resident Russian ghost. Claimed he started appearing after they used the dirt from the hill to fill up HGO barriers from the wall. Turns out, they had found some bones while doing it. He even told us they had been face to face with it, and even drew his sidearm. All the other guys kind of chimed in about their own creepy experiences of the place. I got moved from another outpost a few weeks later. Always got super creepy feelings whenever we'd visit there. It had a few more weird experiences there. That country definitely has some energy to it.
Oh.
Very weird.
That is very weird.
It seems like digging up bones is probably not a good idea.
Usually not.
I mean, have we seen Poltergeist? Do we know what happens?
I misheard you for a second, and I heard Poultrygeist.
That is also a movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it on Prime Video?
Maybe. I don't know.
I always feel like Prime Video has like the weirdest movies. Like they always have like these like knockoff movies. They have a ton of like shark movies, you know? Like I think we went through one night and just like looked at all of the like stupid movie titles that they had on Prime. And a lot of them were just like relating to sharks for the most part, because Sharknado was fairly popular, but these were like even weirder ones than just a tornado of sharks or a tornado moving a shark. I've never seen Sharknado. I'm making an admission here. I've never seen it, never watched it, don't care to. What's it on?
It's on a bunch of stuff, but it's a type of movie, like a types of movies, and it's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, Poltergeist, the Night of the Living, Night of the Chicken Dead.
Great.
Yeah.
I feel like you're thinking like probably like a satirical, spoofy type movie.
There's just a specific term for it, and I'm blanking on the name, but it's not important. It's not important. You know. But
I didn't know Poltergeist was a thing.
Oh yeah, we're getting off topic, but there's a guy who, so this is like kind of like a funny spoof movie.
Yeah.
In a sense of like it has it's very B movie-esque.
Yeah.
C movie-esque, and we used to work with a guy who actually wrote a short story based off of this.
Yeah.
That was even more ridiculous. I used to have it. Might have it still, it was very funny.
So weird.
Anyway, continuing with the hauntings in the Middle East, we have another story from Reddit user. The banana be with yo. Imagine banana be with you.
And with you.
And also with you. About their strange encounter in Iraq in 2010. I deployed in Iraq in 2010 to 2011, and my unit experienced a few weird things while there. First off, we were replacing a unit that was leaving their vehicles for us, and about 2 or 3 weeks before we arrived, they lost 2 men in a suicide bombing incident. Now, I'm not sure if they belong to our particular vehicles or not, but a little that I might have thought about it. Now, the first incident happened at night around what I would say 11 p.m. or so. We keep the hatches to the vehicle's padlock when not in use, and the only platoon sergeant and driver have keys. That night, a driver from another vehicle had just gotten done doing checks on his own vehicle, and while walking away, he saw a light on the inside of one of the vehicles next to him. The driver that the other vehicle belonged to was notorious for leaving stuff on, so he didn't pay any attention to it. As he was locking up, he saw somebody in the driver's seat and was like, aha, he is in there, and climbed to open the door to surprise him. It was still padlocked.
Ooh.
And so was the back door, and no one was in there anymore. By the way, these are strikers. The person wants to emphasize that strikers are like armored personnel carriers. They got like a gun on top. They're pretty sizable vehicles. There is no way for someone to get in or out without having to take at least one of the padlocks off, and the doors aren't exactly quiet to open or close. Another incident involving myself in the vehicle he saw the person was inside of. Jeez, wow, sorry, there was a jumble of words. He had to pull guard in the vehicle turret, and while on a night shift, I was sitting in the turret by myself with a communication box, which hung down on a cord below the turret. Slams into my knee and started swinging back and forth. I tried to recreate it several times the rest of the deployment and couldn't. It would have taken a good amount of force to swing from where it rests to being close to my knees. Others in my unit reported hearing someone talking while they stood on guard, and even just having the presence in the vehicle while they were there. I am sure there are more stories that they haven't cared to share due to being tough, gruff Cav Scout types. It wasn't uncommon for some of us to spend the countless hours watching the blackness of the night, talking to whatever was in the vehicle. It was just a weird experience that people had while there.
Yeah, it was weird.
So not as spooky as the other ones, but still pretty strange.
It is strange. I don't know much about like military vehicles, but
Look up a striker. You can look up a photo. Believe in you.
okay.
You get an idea. We have another terrifying encounter from Iraq in 2003 from Reddit user Film Gorilla. Once again, for real, shout out to everyone from these Reddit users who and these servicemen and women who share their stories, because these are incredible and kind of show that hauntings truly do happen everywhere.
Yeah, I literally can't see like how someone would
It's impossible.
get into that without making noise, because that thing is fucking beefy.
And if you're watching this, go to our Instagram and you'll be able to see a photo of a striker, because you can get an idea of what they look like. Now, once again, from Reddit user Film Gorilla. I was a sergeant in the U.S. Army. I was ETSing, getting out from the military when President Bush ordered more troops to Iraq in 2003. I had just returned home to Austin, Texas, wherein I was summoned to my local National Guard unit at Camp Mabry, probably butchering that, and told them I was being recalled to the Army. Excuse me?
Sorry, my nose is so stuffy.
Small duck lives inside the
Yes, in my nose.
Great. But the unit was already tasked out to deploy to Iraq. I was not part of the unit yet, so the commander offered to give me a waiver to deploy with a government contractor, Halliburton, in Houston. I knew that I would make more money as a contractor, so I took the offer. Not long after arriving in Kuwait at Camp Doha, which once again I'm probably butchering, I began working with the operations team overseeing logistic affairs. We would oversee the daily convoy of supply between Kuwait and Baghdad, riddled with IEDs, incidents, small arms skirmishes, and almost constant breakdowns of army and civilian vehicles. Because I was a SAW gunner in the 1st Infantry Division while I was active duty and was technically still in the Guard, I would often deploy in the convoys manning a mounted weapon that accompanied mostly civilian convoys. During these runs, we had a few strange encounters in the area south of Baghdad known as Camp Babylon. Occupied by French troops, but then designated as an archaeological site for obvious reasons, Camp Babylon was set up in the area that was said to be originally inhabited by the famous Tower of Babel. Indeed, there were ruins there that did look like a massive structure once stood in that spot. I had 2 strange incidents happen to me while passing through here. The first incident seems a bit benign, but sets the mood for the second. We were passing through Camp Babylon in the afternoon one day when our convoy took small arms fire. The standard operating procedure at the time was to stop the convoy and return fire. This was because in the past, such incidents ended up being a lone gunman attempting to scare the convoy into running into IEDs on the road. Because of this, the standard operating procedure changed. Stop the convoy, dismount, return fire. While the engineers looked for explosive devices on the road, we scanned the horizon for enemy. Nothing. They most likely fled immediately. However, the ruins around Camp Babylon were alive with, quote, shadow figures that seemed to move about the area. Several times we would spot the figures, but they would immediately disappear. A contractor lying beside me with his weapon commented, "How odd that we are in the shadow of the Babel and fighting the supernatural." I didn't respond, but I knew he was a 32nd degree Mason who was really into the arcane aspects of Babylon, etc. I didn't feel at the time that much was supernatural, but certainly did see the shadowy and bizarrely small figures dart around the structure. Once the road was deemed clear, we continued on to Baghdad. The second incident that occurred about a month later, at this point the weather in southern Iraq and Kuwait had turned quite cold at night. During this encounter, we had just completed a supply run to Baghdad and returning back to Camp Doha in Kuwait when a vehicle in our convoy broke down. Once again, we found ourselves right at Camp Babylon. While the army mechanics took a look at the vehicle, the rest of us took up fighting positions around the area. Strange things began to occur. It started with a strange light bobbing in the desert. Thinking it was a person with a flashlight, we used night vision goggles to watch. It was simply a glowing ball of light moving towards a set of ruins. After initial contact with the light, a few of us had moved forward away from the convoy to see what the source was. After seeing it was a self-contained and not a person, we were a bit alarmed. Then we heard a sound that we'll never forget. A long wailing began from the ruined structure foundations not far away. It sounded like a woman in agony mixed with loneliness. On and on the sounds went while we huddled in the cold and dark, wondering what the hell we were listening to. With our night vision goggles equipped, we used our flashlights to spotlight the ruins. If you've ever done this, you will know that a normal flashlight with night vision goggles looks like a massive beam of light. We scoured the area, but no source of the wails or the ball of light were seen. About this time, we were told the VIA radar of the vehicle was repaired and ready to roll, so we decided to return to the convoy. I was slinging my saw over my shoulder when I noticed my contractor partner was staring at the ruins in horror. He was frozen. I shook him and he snapped out of his stupor, quickly leaving the area with the rest of us. Once we got back to camp, it was pleasantly daylight the following morning. Several of us were chatting about the encounter at Camp Babylon before our daily operations briefing. It was then that I remembered the terrifying expression on the face of the contractor, so I asked him about it. He was still obviously traumatized by the event, but managed to explain that as we were leaving our position on the sandy hill, he saw a tall, black figure standing beside the ruins. He was watching us as if we were looking at him, her, it. He said that he felt an intense wave of despair hit him, and he thought he was going to die. He didn't remember leaving the area. The next memory was in the Humvee, headed back to Kuwait. So they go on to explain that they now write nonfiction books about haunted places for a publishing company and have visited hundreds of reportedly haunted spots. But during their research, they began to read some stories about Pakistani employees at Camp Doha, Camp oh my gosh. I can't even say that. At another camp. They were also quite horrified. One of them, the translator called Artie, said that they believe they might have encountered a jinn during that encounter. So, pretty spooky.
Those are spooky.
Very spooky.
Jinn are one of the few things that like really spook me. Just the lore behind them are terrifying.
They are terrifying. Everything about this is terrifying.
Yeah.
If you're not scared, I'm scared. Are you scared? Because I'm scared.
I'm not really scared, but I'm interested.
Are you scared? Because I'm scared. All right.
I'm not scared.
Okay. As we continue this haunting ride through the Middle East, we arrive at a more modern time, 2020, Iraq. And with a story from Bever Tales. I got back not too long ago and thought I would share my experiences. We get into country, and there's it's nothing big, just doing our jobs in the desert. Due to the nature of my job and mission, I scroll past all my things. Please ignore me.
I literally have done that so many times because mobile is so fucking difficult with Google Drive or
It's fine.
Docs
It's
or
fine.
whatever.
Listen, I'm not editing this out. We're keeping it. So, due to the nature of my job / mission, I was confined to the Fordo operating base. I worked nights the whole tour of my work, with my hours between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. As you can imagine, I slept during the day. Background. The base is a premier duty station for the Iraqi military built in the 1970s, 80s to accommodate the expanding army under Saddam's rule. So, Gulf War 91 happens, we bomb it out. In 03 we invaded again, and guess what? Bombed it out then, occupied it until 2011, then given back to Iraqis. So, countless suicides or combat-related deaths from the years of surge and peak insurgency. 2014, bombarded out again because ISIS overtook it, and they were using it as a death camp. Olympic swimming pools on location were filled with bodies, and there was a steamroller used for running people over. 2014 to now, occupied by Iraqi army. So, needless to say, this place has got a really fucked up history.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And they have a couple of occurrences that are really spooky, and we're going to get into that right now.
Hell yeah.
Occurrence number 1. It was about a month into tour, and I was dead asleep in my room. We slept in a 6x6 room with a roommate. I was fortunate to never see him, as we had opposite shifts. I was racked out on my back to the center of the room, and I woke up to see a slight touch grabbed to the back of my arm. I rolled over to see what is a 6'4" looking black shadow standing 6 feet from me. I wear my glasses. My vision is absolutely awful. So assuming it was one of my soldiers waking me up, I roll back over after putting on my glasses, and there's nothing there. So tripped out, I get a hold of my roommate, and he chalks it up to me having a bad dream. So did I. 2 months go by, and business as usual. I go to work at 9, and my roommate settles in. Taking advantage of him being alone, he decides to, you guessed it, jerk off. After finishing up, he sits up to try to clean up and head to the shower, and the ambient light of his headlamp lights up my end of the room. He notices something strange at the corner of his eye. It looks what he said was a, quote, big-ass guy, big like its feet portion were hanging off your bed. It's a college-sized dorm bed twin, and it was all black. So, pretty much a shadow dude laying on my bed. He said fight or flight hit him because he was clearing off after handling business, and he froze up. After looking away, looking back, when trying to find the actual light switch, hits it, it's gone.
Oh.
That's fucking what a horrible time to be post jerk off sesh.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh. Look a little there, big boy.
I see what y'all doing.
That's terrifying.
Committing sin.
I mean, have you
Kinda hot.
have you ever thought about like how many ghosts could be around?
When I'm jerking off?
Yeah.
No, not particularly. That's not something I like.
Are you gonna now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunately going to be in the back of my head now. Let's get the close up. Just remember, if you're ever just like talking and you start like choking, it's because a ghost is trying to put their wiener in your mouth.
I don't think that's true.
That is true. That's fact.
I don't think it is.
Have you been a ghost hunter for almost 20 years? Oh, I have.
I just realized my feet were on camera and I was like, let me move that. Y'all don't need to look at my feet. Sorry.
viewfinder.com/lunar thrill.
Listen, if it makes some extra money, shit.
I hate it here. I truly do. So he believed after it was Jesus Christ, man. So he believed it after that and thought it wasn't just a dream. We told our platoon sergeant Chow the next day, and he was amused and interested. He had been a believer in the paranormal and decided to speak on his part. According to him, at this point on the tour, about 3 months or so in, he's seen someone leave my room at odd times in the middle of the day, times where I'm sleeping, and walk to the room across from us. The thing is, the room across from us had been padlocked plywood door and was being locked because guys who slept in there were in Syria. So much of their gear had to be left, had to leave their behind. Jesus Christ, they had to leave their gear behind because they had too much of it. You can't get in without being able to phase through plywood doors, is what I'm trying to say.
Weird.
Pretty weird.
That's really weird.
That's really weird. So that was the extent of the creepy stuff in my living space. I don't think it was a djinn, but my interpreter said it probably was, since it kept getting close to me and manifesting physically. If I could describe it, it would look similar to the shadow dude captured on the Ghost of Carmel, Maine, a YouTube channel, which I'm gonna have to check out after this.
I don't know.
Sounds fucking spooky, man.
Yeah.
Occurrence number 2. Taking a shit in the porta-johns at night, and you hear footsteps or whispers around you. Note, you are in a shitter next to a watchtower that is 150 to 300 meters away from another group of soldiers at 3 a.m. Nobody is awake to fuck with you except the other guy in the tower, and he can't abandon his watch since he's covering. Occurrence number 3, I attended a sleep aid class with the medics and whatnot since I was having trouble sleeping soundly, and in the group there were soldiers waking up with bad dreams and scratches on them, of which were bad enough they bled and it dried up in their sleep. They discovered after they woke up to bloody sheets. Nobody said anything other than the medic asking if he needs to take a look at it. It's a very medic thing. Like, oh, you're getting haunted by a ghost in the middle of the night? Want to take a look at it? This one just says weird stuff. Continuing on. Entry point guys who man the big gate with obstacles would hear commotion like banging on the metal at the gate at night and would go to check it out, and nothing would come of it. Towers report people walking in an open area around the perimeter at night. Some would notice something on their nods, their night vision goggles, or in the darkness that their eyes were adjusted to. But the sergeant on guard or other responding elements would check it out, and there would be nothing there.
As it be.
And a woman screaming was reported from the towers in the vicinity of the bombed-out bunker that had been destroyed, half-abandoned building on the far end of the forward operating base. The sergeant on guard responds, and we had no personnel report any sort of assault, and nobody came up missing or astray. Tower didn't report anyone in the area, and other than the sergeant on guard and relief around that time. So, seems like that place has got some pretty dark energy going on in it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
A place with that much death, I'm gonna say probably. Yeah.
No, I would agree.
So, staying in Iraq, we traveled back in time to 2003 for Marine's very spooky encounter. From Reddit user Gonzo, of course. Of course.
God damn it.
We're the fucking dumbest people alive.
Unfortunately, our brains are almost one at this point where we both say dumb shit all the time.
We're going to do a little word association real quick.
Okay. I'm not good at this, but let's go.
Just first word that comes to mind.
Yeah?
Okay, sure.
What?
Focus.
This is not going to go well.
1, 2, 3. Gonzo. You didn't do it.
Uh-oh.
You fucking... All right. There's the clip.
No, see, I thought you were going to say something and then I was going to think of another word to go with it.
I changed it. It said, say the first word that comes to mind. It just...
Well, I thought...
Just try it again. Try it again. I'm going to say a word, and you're going to say a word at the same time, see if we match up. Ready?
Okay, that's not word association.
Whatever. I don't care. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Idiot. You didn't say that.
I was going to say gonzo, and then you started saying idiot, and then... I fucking ate it here.
You didn't even say anything. Again.
I tried. I started to, and then I focused on what you were saying. The first one threw me off because you said word association, and that's where you say a word, and then someone says what they think of when you say that word. That's word association.
One more time.
No, because you're just gonna call me an idiot again.
I'm not gonna call you an idiot again.
You can call me.
I said the word idiot. I didn't call you an idiot. Ready?
I know what you were referring to.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Gonzo. There you go. Okay.
I fucking hate it here.
So anyway, Gonzo joined the U.S. Marine Corps in 2000. By 2003 was in Iraq. While in Iraq, we had stopped at an RRP, repair and replenish point, and we dug in for the night. That night, there was no moon, and couldn't see any bright stars in the sky, so it was ridiculously dark. You seriously couldn't see the hand in front of your face. I was sitting in my dug position, using my night vision goggles to keep an eye out for any insurgents when I heard the loudest and scariest scream coming out of the darkness. Then it got closer. But it became clear that the scream was above our heads. There was something flying above us or hovering that Jesus Christ, if I could talk, that would every several minutes scream in a loud, screeching, frightening way. I can't even give it justice on how frightening this scream sounded. A couple of us heard it, but the weird thing is that not everyone that was awake could hear it. I tried to convince myself that I was having words are hard, that it could have been some sort of local bird or type of screech owl. I even Googled many different type of owl calls just to try to find something that sounded similar with no luck. The whole Gonzo thing really fucked up my speech.
I'm sorry.
It's very funny.
I didn't...
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Gonzo. Perfect.
You're just going to call me an idiot again.
Idiot. Idiots.
Yeah, I was going to say, you better make that plural because I ain't the only one.
So, someone told me that it could have been a banshee, but I truly do not know. While reading the story, I kind of was curious on if anybody had any similar instances to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I went down to the comments, and sometimes you go in the comments and you find some gold, and I found some gold. This one comes from user Red Ignition, and this is directly from the comments of that one story. So if you're reading this, you want to read this story, check this one out. To kind of piggyback, in 2014, when I was deployed in Afghanistan, we're located adjacent to Alexander's Castle. Weird shit happened consistently. This base had been destroyed as part of the drawdown of troops, so I feel comfortable giving details. There was an airfield located in the far corner of the forward operating base, along with an unmanned drone launching site run by civilians. This area had been this area had one man tower and a FLIR camera on a very large pole that was hooked up to ground motion sensors. The FLIR was set to pan the area for motion, and we had 3 monitors that displayed the images. Most of the time, it would be like wild hogs, or there was a fox that made his home close by. However, there were several times you would see shadows, clear as day. There were man-sized shadows, and we would walk out of the tower onto the HGOs and drop nods to try to see them. There was nothing there. At the middle of the night, when the wind would blow, you'd hear voices or whispers.
Ooh.
Our interpreter told us that the reason that there was so much moon dust was due to the amount of people who had died during the ancient wars and the battles, and that their bones had been turned into dust. A lot of times, the interpreters would refuse to go into certain areas. We did dismounted patrols into the night, and they were afraid the jinn would get them.
Ooh. Me too.
Pretty spooky. It seems like it keeps popping up over and over again. Jinn, banshee, some sort of other poltergeist phenomena.
I mean, jinn are pretty, like, common in that area folklore-wise, so I'm not terribly surprised. Oh, you're leaving. Goodbye.
I'm not leaving. I'm sitting up.
No, goodbye.
Thank you much for joining us on Grace and Omens, episode 121.
Can you imagine if I was just talking and you just got up and...
That would be a very funny bit. Maybe I'll just do that.
No.
You can just read out this last part.
I don't even have access to the docs, so...
That's fun. You can just you can just start riffing.
That's not gonna go well.
I did save what I think is, in my opinion, one of the scariest stories for last, because we've covered the grand scope of supernatural behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Lights, voices, manifestations. This one is very odd, and
okay.
I think this is more of a well, let me just read you this. For a final story of the battlefield Middle East, and on the user from the story from user TX Cryptids, and their encounter may not have just been a ghost, but maybe a cryptid.
Oh.
Because this one's fucking weird. This one is weird. I don't know. This one freaked me out a lot. It was during my 3rd deployment to Iraq. The platoon had taken up residence in 2 houses with a village several miles south of Hadathia. One day, I heard our translator was having a heated discussion with 2 local men. I grabbed my gear and my rifle and walked out to the road to investigate. I asked the translator what was going on. He tells me that these 2 men are crazy, and he assures me that they are not dangerous. I ask what they want. He mumbles something about their being superstitious or something along those lines. He assures me that everything is okay and my attention is not needed. It took a bit of prying, but the translator finally says that they are having a wolfman problem, but they are afraid that if they shoot at it, the troops will be alarmed and attack their house. They tell us that the wolfman has been coming around late at night and has already killed a few sheep, and they are worried that it's going to start attacking their family. So, I assume somewhere in the translation the word wolf the word dog has turned into wolf, and is somehow being conveyed to me by the translator as a wolfman. So, I try to clarify, do they mean a dog? Almost like he's embarrassed that his countrymen are wasting everyone's time by believing in such nonsense, but they are adamant that their house is being besieged by a wolfman.
Ooh.
Again, I asked if it's just a big dog, and no, it's a wolfman. So, I asked if there are wolves in Iraq, and they all are in agreement that yes, there are wolves in Iraq, but there are no wolves in this part of the country, and it's not a wolf or a large dog that's been killing their sheep. It's a wolfman. The translator is trying to usher them away, but at this point, I'm very intrigued and a bit confused about over the whole dog wolfman thing. So I asked them to describe what they were seeing, and they told me that every few nights it comes around. They first see it on 4 legs. It skulks around their compound, but then it stands up like a man walking on 2 legs. It growls and is lunged at the men, but as they retreat, it turns its attention to the sheep. Their own dogs refuse to protect their human or the sheep. They tell me the creature has killed a few of their sheep, and that they have even found one of the bodies ripped apart with portions of it eaten away. They have been hesitant to shoot for fear of troop involvement. The translator says that he's heard such a creature, and even though this type of story has been spread through the area by various people, it is no more than superstitions or delusions. He assures me that there is no such thing as a wolf man, and I tell the two men that they should feel free to protect themselves and their livestock. It is, and with my interest piqued, I get the men to agree to allow us to stop by from time to time and set up an observation point while on patrol. A couple nights later, I join a night patrol, and we head towards the house. We are greeted by one of the men, and he gives us entry to the compound. We go up to the roof and set out sentries overlooking the nearby bridge. About an hour later, the homeowner comes up with a panicked look on his face. He's talking really fast, excitement is concern in his voice, and the body language. He's wanting us to come with him. I tell two others to come with me, and we all follow the man. He leads us to the other side of the house, and we exit into an enclosed courtyard where the sheep are being kept. The sheep are making plenty of noise. The man is pointing to the dark corner of the yard. I strain my eyes to see what he's pointing at. Finally, I see it. A large wolf/dog just standing in the corner. I asked if the two other men with me, if they can see it too, and they agree that it's a wolf or a dog. It moved behind a section of the wall, and I could hear popping and cracking noises, like joints or knuckles being cracked. When I stepped out from behind the wall, it was upright on two legs. It swiftly and effortlessly jumped the perimeter wall, and we could hear it running away on 2 feet. I conveyed to the man as best as I could that if that thing showed up again, feel free to shoot it if he could, and if he did, please let me know.
That's terrifying.
The sound of it cracking and popping,
Yeah.
like it's standing up, is the most disturbing thing in the world to me.
Oh, yeah.
I do not like that.
No.
That does not spark joy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Surprise.
Well, Tay, we did it.
We did it. We did it.
We did it. We did it. We did it. Zoom on Taylor's face. Oh, no. Zoom on Taylor's face. We did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. They're coming to get you. They're coming to get you, and there's nothing you can do to stop.
We did it. Is that what you were hoping I would do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just takes a really dark turn all of a sudden.
We did it.
We did it. We did it. And
Good morning.
oh, well, Spirit's up, which means time for the episode to be over.
She says, it's time. She said, I'm here. Okay, please don't stand on me. Please don't. Okay. Well. Ow.
I love it here.
This is the wolf man they were talking about. Look at her.
Unnecessary. Well, thank you much. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us on HGO. Spirit, please. I'm trying to do close up.
Why she looks so long right now? Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of Haunts, Graves, and Omens. If you want to follow us, you can at HGOPodcast on TikTok, Instagram. We're also on X. So it's all on there. Not X. What's the word I'm thinking of? Threads.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm not on X.
It's on Threads. If you want to follow me directly on Instagram, you can at The Haunted. You can follow me on Twitch. Twitch.tv/The I'll pass it off to Taylor.
Hi. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Lunar Thrill. You cannot find me on X. That is not a place I'm at.
Feetfinder.com.
If anything, I should make a blue sky. But, ow, that's where I'm... Okay. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/lunarthrill. You can also find this idiot right here on Instagram at Spirit the Turv. I almost said Lunar Thrill, which, yes, technically true. You can find her all over my page. We're having a time. I love it here.
Spirit the Turv.
But yeah, you can follow her on Spirit the Turv. You can follow me on any of the aforementioned places at Lunar Thrill.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's all you got.
That's all I got.
Lunar Thrill, and I am the Haunted, and Spirit the Turb. HGO Studios, we're back, baby. Kiss me on the lips. Remember to stay spooky.
Stay haunted.
And they're coming to get you. They're coming to get you. Spirit, give your closeout statement.
Here. No.
What you got to say?
Here.
What you got to say? Okay. All right, bye.